welcome to episode 15 of Four Guys Talking Sports, the podcast. My name is Luke Legrano.
I'm Ryan Hicks.
I'm David Axel.
And I'm Lawrence Legrano.
Yes, Four Guys Talking Sports, the show where all four hosts have thrown the same number of touchdowns as Tom Brady this postseason. Gentlemen, how we doing? Welcome back.
That was
I didn't like that one.
That was such a... You know what you should have said? Where all four hosts has thrown as many touchdown passes as Jets playoff appearances this year. 0. Suck on that.
We do have as many playoff appearances as Jets.
Luke's intro is better.
Well, Luke hurt my feelings, so that's what he gets.
Sorry, pal. I'm sorry. All right.
Totally fair being a Patriots fan.
Well, we told you guys sitting at home that we'd be back and we'd have some debate episodes for you right as we came back for 2020, but there's just been so much going on in the world of sports that we couldn't help ourselves, and we're back for another episode. And lucky for you guys at home, we actually have our friend Jake Bulian coming on the show this week to talk some football, some baseball, and much more.
We are 3 beards to 1 no beard.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
My nice clean-shaven face for the show, you can see it.
Pick'em has been decided, and to go against all odds, David Acasella has lost.
It's pretty crazy, right? After pretty much leading the entire season and being about 4 games ahead of all of you in the win-loss.
And yeah, it didn't go without any drama either. So we were all super close. Luke picks all the early games and goes 3-0, which means that I have to go perfect, and David and I have opposite picks with the Falcons and the Bucks game.
Yep.
So Luke goes 3-0, Lawrence is in the clear, and the three of us are in a complete panic, and Jameis Winston throws a pick 6 to end it and essentially seal David's fate. I was running around my living room screaming. I had the stream up my laptop, and my dad was so mad that I was yelling. He had no idea what was going on because Jameis Winston threw a pick 6 to save my beard. So nothing makes sense. Jameis Winston throws 30 and 30, and that's what ends up saving my beard. Luke and I both go 3-0, and David loses.
The Giants blowing that game to the Eagles, too, was a big help for you.
If when we had all started this on week 2 or 3, that this is how this is going to end, Luke starts the season 0-9, and this is where we end up.
0-6, thank you.
What? What a ride! Yeah, all I can say is I'm looking forward to doing it next season. Now that we have a season under our belts.
Yeah, let's throw it up here real quick for the people at home. The final scores: Lawrence first place with 53 points, Ryan second place with 51 points, Luke third place 50 points, and David somehow, some way, by the grace of God, last place with 49 points. David, I'm sorry.
Do you have the records?
What were the records? Yeah.
So, first place, Lawrence was 24-21. Second place, Ryan was 25-20.
Oh,
third place, I was 24-21, and David in last place, 28-17.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so 3 games ahead of the second best.
We all went above 500.
We did.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good.
Yeah.
David finished above 600. I can't do that math in my head.
That is incredible.
Right? Well, what was my record
Especially you, Ryan.
28-17.
28-17.
Use that math major, David.
It's about like 6'10".
And Luke told me that stats wouldn't help me. Boom. Not to mention Larry and I had about 14 picks together.
Oh, yeah. So for the people at home, I actually crunched the numbers. There was not one week that we did predictions where Ryan and Lawrence did not pick the same game.
Great minds, Rye. Great minds.
There it is. What a season, boys.
Also, just unbelievably super poetic that the best picker out of all of us also doesn't give a literal shit about his beard, and the other 3 of us would have been crying if this happened to us and we lost and we came on this podcast clean-shaven.
So that's why, honestly, I'm not mad. I think it worked out. This game made the motivation to shave now. Because I was lazy and I was getting scruffy. I was looking like a hobo. You know?
Dave, if it's any consolation to you, I did get my comeuppance because while I do have my beard, I went back to my first day of substitute teaching in 2020 with this massive pimple on my forehead. So
that's right. I've been there.
All right.
They got more acne than you do. Trust me.
No. Flesh with the skin I have.
Sorry to any high school kids listening.
I'm sorry to all the Spotify and Apple Podcast users that can't see my pristine skin that I got going on right now. All right, let's not waste any more time. We ready to send it on over to Jake?
Let's do it.
Let's send it on over to our podcast with Jake Bulian. And we're here with Jake Bulian. Jake, how the hell are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Jake, you've been a long-time supporter of the show. You're always good for a mailbag question or a question of the week answer. We're finally happy to have you on the show. Are you excited to get down to it?
Excited. It's been a big week for coming from the Boston neighborhood, so it's I think it's the right week for me to be here to help Ryan defend the front.
Well, let's not waste any time with that, Jake. I know you're a Pats fan, and since Ryan finally has somebody to suffer with, let's talk about the big shock coming from last weekend. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots got off to what can only be described as a terrible start to the decade. The Pats fell to the Tennessee Titans in the first round of the playoffs, 20-13, and despite Ryan Tannehill only throwing for 72 yards, running back Derrick Henry had a big day with 34 carries for 182 yards and a touchdown, with the game being capped off by a Brady pick six. Jake, you're our guest, so we'll ask you the question on everybody's mind. Is the Pats dynasty finally over?
I definitely don't think it's over. I'm not convinced Brady's staying back, but I think Belichick is excited to be here, and there's some quarterbacks that are going to be, entering free agency that are going to be up for grabs that I think Belichick is going to take a fancy to. Without Tom Brady's contract on the books, if he doesn't come back, there's some names that would definitely be exciting to watch that if he's feeling the magic, he could do some work with.
So Tom Brady takes a lot of pay cuts. I don't know what exactly he makes. I'm sure that's a question for the two Boston folks.
It's like 28 this year.
Okay, so it's still very sizable.
But yeah, but he won't be next year if he's off the books to be 13.5. But then think about what would a guy like Andy Dalton make? What would a guy like Jameis Winston make on the open market?
Jake, do you
I don't
hear
know.
yourself?
I hear myself.
Winston.
Or Andy Dalton. Like how could any Patriots fan be in any way looking forward to watching football when Tom Brady leaves the team and you sign one of those two quarterbacks?
At least Jameis Winston's good TV. I got to be honest. He creates an exciting game. You know when the ball is up, someone crazy is going to catch it, but you don't know who. It's an exciting. It's like roulette, Andy Dalton would be much less exciting. Got to be honest. But the reality is, I'm not convinced that Brady's going to stay, and I think there are options out there for him that he might go either follow Josh McDaniels or other teams that have good situations surrounding the quarterback.
I really don't understand why everyone thinks that Brady's going to leave. It really does, because I understand that loyalty in sports is kind of dead in our generation more than ever. But I think if you have the opportunity that Tom Brady has in front of you where people want you there, and they'll pay you whatever amount of money that you want, I don't see why he would leave. I really don't get it. I think that he's going to ride it out in New England where he started it and where he's going to finish it. I don't see him pulling a Peyton Manning where he spends his last 2 or 3 seasons somewhere else.
So the problem there, Luke, is just like the Peyton scenario, it's not up to him. And I don't think the Patriots want him back. I don't think Bill Belichick specifically wants him back. Because I think this kid, Jarrett Stidham, I believe, is your backup's name.
Yes,
I think he's the one that's going to take over the mantle because they think he's ready. And he probably is ready. Have you seen him play?
Yeah, he threw one.
He threw a pick during the Jet game.
It was a pick six, and it ruined the spread. I do.
I took Ryan Stoller.
The point is, though, if Bill Belichick thinks he's ready, I believe him. So, I mean,
I think at the end of the day, we'll have to see what his value is. I think if he goes to free agency, it's going to be really interesting because it's a really unique opportunity where a guy is maybe asking for a 3-year deal, but there are teams that are going to be willing to talk to him at a 1 or 2 year deal level, and they could offer him either a lot of money or a lot of control. And it could sort of go either way. And depending on where that shakes up, he has the control in Foxborough as is. And so at what price would he maybe be willing to stay?
I think what's interesting about this is there's so many different layers to it. And the three guys know that I was spiraling conspiracy theories at them at like 2 a.m. Throughout the past week. So it's been tough Patriots fan. I think what it is going to come down to is I think that Brady's going to hold out as long as possible and wait to see what Belichick and Kraft bring in, and then he's going to make his decision. I think that in an ideal world, Belichick brings in another big-time receiver, and Brady comes back because of that, because the offensive line is going to get healthy again. The defense, for the most part, is staying the same. I think Brady waits out and makes his decision to see who else they can bring in to help him. With that being said, I can also see Brady going somewhere else on a 2-year deal just because he can, and it's his way of sticking it to him, and he's already said he's not going to take a pay cut because he's done it a bunch of times before. I think, Luke, when you say a massive surprise that the Titans won, as you were watching that game, if you were a Patriots fan and didn't go into the second half horrifically nervous, then you're a fool and you're sipping on the Kool-Aid. Belichick has a tendency to lose to people under his coaching tree or playing tree. If you look at the stats, he was like 8-8 or 8-6, something like that in his last.
It's currently 14-14.
14-14. Okay, so there's that stat. Derrick Henry was a complete cheat code. And then if you look at the second half too, right? I don't think they played Derrick Henry right. I think they should have stuck to the defense that they stuck with. If you looked at when you were watching the game, when they ran the defense they ran against the Super Bowl, and Romo and them were quick to point it out, it worked. I think that on the final drive, the Edelman drop pass on the second and 6 or third and 6, whatever it was, absolutely kills you. And with 4 minutes left, I hate the decision to punt the ball on that drive. That was the game. Everyone that I was in the basement with, we were arguing about it, and the minute that punt went off, I said, this game is over. You cannot give the ball back to that. So I think that as you watched that game through, you quickly could tell that this game was not going to go well for the Patriots.
Now, I'm not a Pats fan, and I'm sure that's pretty evident to literally anyone who knows me. But I think it's foolish to say that, I'm not, again, I don't know what you guys were feeling, but to say you were horrified down literally a single point at half when you're the New England Patriots, the team that came back from 28-3.
That's his point, Luke, is that you're sipping the Patriots Kool-Aid, right?
Yes.
You are sipping the Patriots Kool-Aid, saying this team
why
is
wouldn't you?
because of the name behind it.
Because if you watch the game, the Patriots struggled to move the ball.
Right.
They were struggling to make completions. There was no separation. The defense was getting literally ran over. Like Derrick Henry was running over grown men for another 8 yards. And the first half, the guy averaged 8 yards a carry. They literally could have handed the ball off every single play, and they would have gotten a first down every single time. I think you're insane if you watch that game. The only time I had a glimmer of hope was when they got that ball back down 1. When it was the 4 or down 6 or 3, whatever it was with the 4 minutes left. The minute Edelman dropped that ball game was over. If Edelman catches that out route and gets that first down, they drive the football. There was the game.
I'm not going to debate that they couldn't stop the run because Derrick Henry had probably one of the best postseasons a running backs ever had. But all I'm going to say, Rise, the last time the Patriots couldn't get her on offense, they won a Super Bowl. So
the problem was, though, it wasn't that they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't run the ball themselves. Like that goal line stand when I think they passed the ball on the 3 and they went for 4 straight plays and did not get in the end zone. That was the turning point. That's what ended the game. And that's also the reason that Belichick punted in the end of the game because he knew he could not run on 4th and 2 or 4th and 3, whatever it was, because he wasn't going to get it.
That was my other point, David.
Alive.
You just touched on it. McDaniels called a horrible game. That was from start to finish and he had 2 good plays. He had 2 good screen calls that got good chunks of yardage, and other than that, I don't think he called the right play the entire night. The 3 runs on that goal line stand was
terrible.
Awful.
For the entirety of McDaniel's career, though, that works. This is the first O-line he's had that can't get that push.
I agree. You should have known that coming into the game. They
should have. You're right.
In the red zone. Why, on that second down, why don't you run a play action and have Brady throw it out of the back of the end zone if things collapse? I don't understand that. And you had Ben Watson moving. Ben Watson was looking good in that first half. Not to mention that on 10 carries, Michelle had 50 yards in the first half, and I think they ran the ball with him 4 times after that. Just a terribly called game by McDaniels from start to finish.
Go ahead, I think part of the thing that sort of killed them in the second half was losing to Landon Roberts, because basically, during the first few games of the season, we had John Kuhn, James Devlin, and that we were able to run the ball. We lose him. We get the backup fullback who's all right, and we're able to move a little bit until he gets injured. And there's about a 4 or 5 game stretch where we can't run the ball at all. We need that fullback. And in week 15 or 14, we finally say, hey, what if we just put a Landon Roberts there? And he kills it. And all of a sudden we can run the ball again. And losing him in the second half is what I think what did in our offense. Because in the first half, our offense moved fairly well. Michelle averaged 4 or 5 yards a carry, something like that. And we were able to get running from other guys too. Rex got in there. James White was running too. But once we lost the fullback, we just weren't able to get any blocking going. And none of the run game was able to get going after that.
We've done an absolutely atrocious job of actually addressing the question of has the Pats dynasty fallen. So I'm gonna move us right along here. We still got some more NFL to talk about, so let's just stay right there. Quite a few head coaching vacancies.
Wait. We didn't even answer the question.
Yeah, we got to talk about dynasty.
Yeah, we haven't answered it for 10 minutes. You want to do it now? Go ahead.
Well, so I guess you have. You've answered the question. You've said that you don't envision a scenario where Tom Brady's leaving and the Pats dynasty will continue to reign and make you the miserable prick you are.
Yeah, always.
I would love to agree with you. I really would. I would really love to agree with you because I'm in that mindset that you want your star to be loyal and you think he's gonna ride into the sunset after winning and all that jazz. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And that's what I think on this. So many people are talking about all the different possibilities that the Patriots and Tom Brady could have in the next, couple months that I think there might be something to it. There's 8 million reasons why that guy would move to LA. And now with all the drama coming out in New England, it kind of makes sense. So I don't know what I would do if I had to put money on this. If I had to say, is Tom Brady coming back or not? I don't know what I'd do. So I'm going to go with him staying because that's what I think is just inevitable. But where there's smoke, there's fire, and he could totally leave.
I think your answer speaks to what we just talked about for 10 minutes in that the question is the Patriots dynasty still going? And the only thing we can talk about is Tom Brady staying or leaving. And the question you got to ask, is that what marks the dynasty ending or not? That's what I'm not convinced of, but that's what it is.
Here's my thing right now, though. I think that if Belichick, like David said, if Belichick is confident enough in Stidham that he can take over the reins, I still take the Pats to win the AFC East next year.
Tough.
I hate to be siding with Pats fans here, but I totally agree with them. Even if Brady leaves, I do think Tom Brady will leave because his house is for sale in Massachusetts and his personal trainer's house is for sale in Massachusetts. So that's not a coincidence at all. I don't know where he's going to go. It seems like the Los Angeles Chargers have been a big talking point.
He bought a house in Greenwich, Connecticut because it's the midway of New York City and Boston, which is where he works and Giselle works.
No, I understand. And I mean, it's a really nice place to have a house. But why would you sell your initial house if you weren't going to move? You know what I mean?
He has like 4 houses. If
someone's got
as many houses as they want.
Buying one in a different state doesn't have anything to do with selling the one in Massachusetts.
We were having this conversation at the party I was watching the game at, and someone was like, "Well, he sold his house and he bought it in Connecticut." And someone goes, "Yeah, because him and Giselle definitely can't afford to have a second one." You're right. He's saying, and it's true. It's true.
But the point I'm trying to get at is I don't think he's going to be staying, whether he goes to the Chargers, Broncos, Colts, Panthers, whatever these quarterback-hungry teams are. But regardless, the Pats will still win the AFC East next year because the rest of the division stinks, unless the Bills take it over. But the rest of the division does kind of stink, and they have for the last 20 years. The Jets are not winning the East. I'm sorry.
Well, my absolute pipe dream is a Buffalo division win and a Jets wild card. So just let me have it, all right?
That's totally possible.
I think it makes the
I don't think it's realistic.
It makes the transition a lot easier to Stidham when you know that the rest of the division is still trash. It's very easy to get into the playoffs, even with like a subpar quarterback. So if you're semi-confident, you still have a good shot.
See Matt Castle.
And they were 11-5. I mean, it wasn't like that was a bad year. But I mean, Jacoby Brissett was 4-0. Jimmy Garoppolo was 3-0. Right? Isn't that a stat there too?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get at though is that. It's not like if they go 5-1 in this division, they'll get a bye, and if they get a bye, they can totally go back to the Super Bowl, even with Jerry Stidham.
I will say this, Luke, and this should be the last point on it. If this is the end, if Brady leaves, if Stidham goes 8-8 next year and they don't do it, and the Tennessee Titans game was the end of the dynasty, we just witnessed the greatest 20 years a sports franchise will ever experience, and nothing will ever touch what the New England Patriots did in the last 20 years. So I think it'd be wrong to talk about it over and not just quickly acknowledge, and no one can disagree with me, and that's why I get to say it, that the last 20 years was the greatest 20 years a sports franchise will ever experience.
Have you looked at like the baseball records from the 20s and 30s? Because like the Yankees won like almost every World Series. We don't have to get into that. But I agree that
you just made David Axella defend the Yankees, Ryan. Do you realize what you've just done?
I didn't defend. I just referenced their history of championships in the early 1900s, man.
I thought you were
Let the record show.
No, man. It's definitely not a Yankees fan. Don't worry. I hate the Yankees more than everything.
True.
Definitely true.
All right.
We've had numerous arguments in the show.
Would you like to add to the eulogy, or is that where we're ending it? Any last words, Pat's Dynasty?
We were born bandwagoners, and it was the best time to be alive. I'm glad I was born when I was.
We'll never see something like it again.
Gross.
All right, well, I brought this up minutes ago, and I guess I'll have to bring it up again. A lot of new head coaching vacancies have been filled in the NFL. So just to name a couple, former Packers head coach Mike McCarthy has signed with the Cowboys. Former Panthers head coach Ron Rivera has signed with Washington. Former Baylor head coach Matt Rule will be replacing Ron Rivera in Carolina. And finally, New York Giants got what some are calling the belle of the ball, Patriots wide receiver coach Joe Judge. Now, with Patriots OC Josh McDaniels the current favorite to land the final head coaching vacancy with the Cleveland Browns, David, who's won the head coach lottery this season?
I mean, I don't know that you could say anyone specifically won the lottery because these are all the guys that nobody wanted. That's why that's why they don't have the job. But I do love the Mike McCarthy signing. I think he's going to do great things with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott in that offense. I really don't dislike any of them besides the Giants one because he's the only one that has no head coaching experience. And I understand, he came from a good system and the Belichick underlings do well at beating him, but they don't play against the Patriots, so I don't think that matters. And they're the worst of the last 3 years. The Giants have the most losses in the NFL, and you're going to have a special teams coach come in and try to change that. A guy that's never talked to an entire room of football players, never talked to the team as a head coach, never made those in-game decisions, and you're going to turn around 7 wins in the last 3 years. It just seems like a really tall task for an inexperienced man.
Ryan, you were shaking your head when David gave his answer. You want to go ahead?
I don't know how you could like the McCarthy signing. I think that I just think it's another Jerry Jones or another Jason Garrett that Jerry Jones is just going to walk all over. It's not when you have Dak and Zeke, assuming that Dak resigns, when I look at those two, I think of the Goff-Gurley dynamic where you should have brought in a young, offensive-minded coach who could drop some crazy stuff and they could have put up absurd numbers, especially if they re-sign Amari Cooper. I just think Mike McCarthy is another boring, old-school coach that Jerry Jones is going to be able to walk all over, and this team's just going to continue to be average. I was so disappointed when I saw that. I thought, and of course, I think part of this is just Jerry Jones is afraid to hire anyone that might say no to him, and that's why he went with McCarthy, because they were all buddy-buddy at his house for their slumber party. But I would have loved to have seen, well, not loved to have seen, but I think the Cowboys had an opportunity to hire an out-of-college coach, young kid, that could have drawn some crazy stuff up for that offense, and they could have actually won football games. And I think Mike McCarthy is just going to bring them to more mediocrity that we've seen from the Cowboys.
I like the McCarthy signing. I actually think that's like one of my favorites of this because I think he brings experience, and we're talking about an offense that's already very good. They've been the highest, I think, yardage offense for the season. They move the ball already as is, so it's about sort of honing that in, making it better. I think he's going to bring a good experience. And I think that's what they need. Jason Garrett's never seen the playoffs, and that's a big part of the issue.
He was there for 10 years, Go ahead, Luke.
No, I was just going to say really quickly, I think if you could rewind to January of last year, and if you could pick every Jets fan and put them in a line, and you say, would you rather have Mike McCarthy over Adam Gase? I'm pretty sure every single one of them would tell you absolutely without a heartbeat, give it to me now.
When the Cowboys signed him, I said, God damn it, he should have been ours. Like, I'm not kidding. I was mad. We should not have let him go last year.
How'd you feel about Matt Rule?
Well, so that's the other point. We really don't have to dive into Matt Rule because it's easier to dive into McCarthy and Judge because this is a New England, New York show, and we have two perfectly relevant scenarios there. But Rule, I think, is going to be good.
I think he's my favorite signing. He's going into a fresh situation with a new owner who's very into analytics. He wants to change it. He's a long-term contract with incentives built in that I think is going to be very good for him and how he can sort of focus on long-term goals. He's coming in with a quarterback who hopefully can still pick up a football. And there are parts of the team that are very good. And he just sort of needs to work to bolster the other parts. But I think that's a good situation to come into as a first-time head coach of an NFL franchise.
Oh, yeah. Matt Rule will make more money this year than Christian McCaffrey and the entire Panthers O-line, all put together. That's how much money he's getting.
Sure. But what I was going to say earlier was that, when the Jets, made the three finalists, McCarthy, Rule, and Gase, I was very excited for the opportunity for either Mike McCarthy or Matt Rule to coach my football team. Very excited for either of those two people. I was so behind both of them. And then they made the worst decision I've ever seen in my entire life.
Someone put a screenshot on Reddit And the caption was 1 year ago today, and it was the meme of the two guys holding hands, and one of them said McCarthy, one said Rule, and then together it said anyone but Gase.
Yep, and it was anyone but Gase. Yeah, I mean, and that was it. So I was shocked when now I'm reverting back to the other New York. I was shocked when I got the notification that Matt Rule went to the Panthers because McCarthy was already off the table because Dallas became the most enticing job after they fired Garrett. And I could not get over the fact that the Giants missed on Rule. I was like, what in God's name did they do to screw this up? And then they go and hire Joe Judge.
Did you hear what had happened with Rule and the Giants?
Well, so he called them and said match, and they didn't.
Oh, yeah.
But
no one's going to match that.
Yeah, and especially like before he even goes there, he has that much leverage before he goes for his interview. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
You know,
the rumor is that the owners are pissed at Tepper for offering that for making that offer because it's unprecedented to give that much money to a college coach to serve that type of deal. So the rumor is that the NFC East is just going to try and destroy him at the next ownership meeting. And I'm all for the owner drama.
Oh, I love it. That is awesome. And I'm totally on the Pampers owner side, man. I just bought into this franchise. I'm going to spend all the money I can. Best products in the field, right? That's the point.
Yep. Yep. Without a doubt. And like they gave Rules so much control, like you were saying with analytics, Jake, and all that. Like that's like the reason where he can turn down a Giants interview if he wants because he's like, holy crap, I'm made in the shade here. You know, screw that. Why waste my time? And they get Joe Judge. Can either of you Pats fans tell us anything about Joe Judge?
He was the special teams coordinator for this year. I think was his first year as wide receiver coach. I've known him as a special teams coordinator for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years. And we've had very good special teams. I think that's something Belichick really cares about. And he's very good at utilizing talent and finding guys who start on offense or start on defense who have a place. We have, I don't know, but it feels like we have a ton of guys who are dedicated special teamers. And I don't know if other teams have nearly as many. We have 2 dedicated gunners right now, which is absurd. I don't know why we had 1 for 5 years and now we have 2. And I think, he's done something right in the special teams because we've always done very well. And, average starting drive position, we usually start very well. And I think that comes a lot down to special teams. How he's going to do, sort of with all the control, it's a big if. I have no idea. We've seen special teams coordinators do really well. And I don't know, some probably have it and we forget them entirely.
Right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he also doing special teams under Saban at Bama? Didn't he do that for a while before he went to the Patriots?
Wow. I don't know, but I believe it. There's a heavy Belichick Saban.
I believe he worked for Saban. And Peter Rosenberg brought this up today. They brought him in as a wide receiver coach. He brought this up on the Michael Kay show. If you look at Joe Judge's special team stats, he blows everyone out of the water. He leads the NFL in blocked punts by the country mile. If you look at his special team stats, they're crazy. So I guess we'll have to see how that translates to a head coaching position.
I will say I was scrolling on, Twitter, Facebook when it dropped, and I just saw Giants' new head coach, and just quickly scrolling, I saw the Patriot Advisor, and I was like, damn, I didn't know McDaniel was supposed to interview with them already. And then I scrolled back up and saw Joe Judge, and I was like, oh, well, that's good, I guess. That's not at all what I was expecting to see, but sure, Giants, go get them. You guys try your best.
I feel like his selling point to them was that as a special teams coordinator, I'm the only guy that sees both sides of the ball. Because if you hire an offensive or defensive guy, they're not going to understand the other side the way I can relate to both. That had to be what he came in and said to Mara, right?
I think part of it.
I can't even imagine.
I think part of it too is that special teams. There are 3 parts of football: offense, defense, and special teams. And we see a ton of offensive plays. Yeah. We see a ton of defensive plays. Special teams plays by number are very, very few, but they are very impactful when you do them well. If you outperform other people in that 1/3 of the game, it leads to great things on both your offense and your defense. And so it is sort of that it could be, that high risk coach that the Giants are looking for. They haven't had any success with anybody else since, the Coughlin years pretty much. So it's trying to find someone who might be able to create something that'll be exciting.
It's a whole third of the game, special teams.
People forget that. All right. Let's go on to baseball. We got some big news earlier this week. The Athletic reported former members of the 2018 Boston Red Sox have admitted the team stole signs using their replay room during their World Series winning season. Boston players would visit the replay room to decipher their opponent's sign sequence and then relay that information to the dugout. And one of the sources said this practice was only done during the regular season due to the MLB having league officials in the replay room during every postseason game. Ryan, with the investigation of the 2017 Astros still underway, what do you think happens to the Red Sox? And more specifically, what happens to Astro coach turned Red Sox Alex Cora?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest story on this is now Cora's name is attached to 2 scandals in 2 different years on 2 teams, which is really, really, really not good. So the Sox as a whole, like, it's not the best look, but I think that if you're a general fan, you're just going to say, oh, it's the Red Sox. I think if you're a diehard fan, especially a baseball fan looking at this scenario, the real story here is Cora's involvement in both and how much comes out about him. And I think that he will not be managing a full season next year. I think that the MLB commissioner came out, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, and pretty much was like, everyone needs to stop doing this, and if I catch you again, I'm going to throw the book at you. Then the Astros were like, oh, they were doing it, and now the Sox are like, oh, they're doing it, and Cora's attached to both. So as a team, I'm not sure what the penalty is going to be. I don't think it's as big of a deal if you take away a couple of draft picks in the MLB just because there's about 150 draft rounds, and you draft kids that are 14 years old in Puerto Rico. So, like, the draft is kind of irrelevant. But I think that if they were smart, they would come out or if the MLB was smart, they come out and they hammer Cora. I think that's the best way to send a message about this because I think that that's the bigger issue is that he's attached to 2 different scandals.
Dave, I know you had some very strong choice words about the Astros and their whole situation. What do you think the penalty is going to look like for the Red Sox?
I think it'd be much less because it was just a less impactful thing. This isn't even as big of a story. It'll probably just be a Cora suspension, maybe any of the coaches involved, maybe a fine to the team, something like that. I really can't envision any draft picks going away, especially if they didn't take any from the Astros. It seems like a much smaller crime, I guess I should say, smaller offense than what the Astros did.
I don't think they've given the ruling on the Astros yet, though. I don't think they've.
Well, if they haven't done it by now, Luke, they're not doing anything. That's it. Like we've seen the result of what the Astros are getting. You know what I mean?
I disagree with that completely.
I disagree with that. I think
what are they going to do with them? What are they waiting for?
I think they're researching, and I think at the end of the day, I think what makes the Red Sox situation look worse is that it came out before we saw a punishment for the Astros.
Yep.
And so basically, even though it honestly didn't seem as bad as an infraction to me as what the Astros are doing, at the end of the day, it came out before, and I think both of them are going to get pretty closely clumped together, especially after the Red Sox are among like the 2 teams, the Red Sox and the Yankees, both got warnings in I think 2018. I think they're going to get slammed for this, and I don't exactly know what that'll look like, but I agree with Ryan that Alex Cora is going to be the victim on this.
Oh, without a doubt, and the 2 of you basically summarize my big points on this. The most intriguing thing that comes out of this story is what happens to the Astros, because that will determine what will happen to the Red Sox. And Jake's 100% right that the fact that the punishment is not out was the biggest part of the scandal by a country mile. Now, I know that you think that they're not going to do anything, but I could be completely honest with you and say that I don't think A.J. Hinch is going to coach in baseball this year.
I think to the team. They're going to suspend him.
Okay.
I don't think he'll be coaching. Right?
Well,
I mean, like
fair,
the Astros organization won't be penalized.
I don't know if I agree with that, because like you don't know as a whole how much responsibility they'll put on AJ Hinch and how much responsibility they'll put on the organization in general, which is why I think the punishment is easily the most interesting thing about this. And you guys nailed it, because Cora was a coach on the Astros and won the World Series, and then he went to the Red Sox and had the best regular season in history with 108 wins. And now that there's two scandals about stealing signs in 2 different organizations.
Yeah.
I'm wondering to myself, is his punishment going to be worse than Hinch? Because Hinch will be bad. I think Hinch will be really bad. And Cora was a bench coach in Houston, and he was the manager in Boston. And if we're going to see anyone get blackballed in this scenario, would it be Alex Cora?
Especially he's only got 1 year left on his deal. Nothing has been signed to extend him past this next year. This could sort of just be it for him. He might right off into the sunset in a pretty shitty way.
I completely agree with you. I think this could be the last time we legitimately see Alex Cora in baseball, depending on, and this all comes down to what they do with the Astros.
We don't have a precedent for something like this.
Right,
That's really
exactly.
the problem.
And that's what we're doing. We're waiting for the Supreme Court to rule, right? We're waiting for that first judgment on the case to then go off of.
Even the wild thing about the Astros, like when that happened, I think I was talking to Larry about it. I was like, I think this is like one of the biggest cheating scandals I've seen in my lifetime. Like this is up there with like sort of the PEDs. It's such a systematic thing where a team is like knows they're abusing the system and is actively doing this. Like very conscious. It's a very conscious effort sort of thing. And I really had never, I don't think in my lifetime had seen sort of something like this. And so I think the punishment is a little unprecedented. I think the Red Sox are now going to get clumped right up in there. It's going to be bad.
It'll definitely be interesting.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, we've got a couple of stories out of the way. Now we're going to cover a lot more because now it is time for another rendition of Quickly Talkin' Sports. You guys know the drill. I'll give you all a question. You have about a minute or so to answer. I'll give everyone else a minute for a rebuttal. Make sure you say what you have to say, but please keep it quick if you can, as the name of the segment suggests. Are we ready?
Of course.
Ready.
Perfect. Okay, here we go. Jake, we were one Bills win away from every underdog team winning on wildcard weekend. Both 6 seeds, the Vikings and the Titans, move on to the divisional round, as well as the number 5 Seahawks and the number 4 Texans. Jake, in your opinion, what game shocked you most from this last round of the playoffs?
Oh, the Vikings Saints. That was just an incredible game where I think the Vikings overall played better on that day, but in no other Sunday has the Saints played worse than the Vikings. I was really upset about the Patriots. I almost chucked my phone when I was watching that Saints game end. I could not believe that the Saints weren't able to pull it out. And at the end of the day, they didn't play better than the Vikings that day. But any football fan should be upset that the Saints don't get to move on because they were one of the best teams in football this year. And who doesn't love rooting for that team? It is a great story.
Completely agree.
Yep.
Most shocking game.
Totally echo the Saints.
Because I bet the Titans for what it's worth.
Although I don't know what was worse, the Saints losing or that painful clip of Kirk Cousins going, "You like that?" in the locker room.
I loved it.
Come on.
I loved
Yeah, I
it.
thought that was great.
You like that, Ryan? You like that?
I hated it.
Dying laughing. When I heard that, I was like, I thought that was so clever. It was good.
It's so
He's owning
cringeworthy.
it, man. Completely owns it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you have to.
It was a sad attempt to still be relevant on the internet a year after it happened, 2 years after it happened.
No.
He's relevant on the internet after destroying the Saints when he looked fantastic against that team.
That ball to Thielen was the nicest throw of his career. That
Seriously.
ball just beautifully was gifted to him on the 5-yard line, just placed in his hands. Like, here you go, sir. That was a nice route you just ran. That's the best throw of his career.
Yep.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Certainly. Especially when the
Any chance
narrative
the Vikes
about
win this week?
is terrible. No, I don't think so at all. Question
All right.
was, do the Vikes have any chance this week?
No.
No.
Don't
Yeah.
think so. All right,
Yep,
David,
yep.
we're coming back to you. This coming Monday, we get to see the finale of the CFB playoffs when Joe Burrow and LSU take on Trevor Lawrence and Clemson. David, can you give us a quick rundown of this matchup? And is there any chance Clemson can overcome the odds everyone's putting them on and take down LSU?
There's definitely a chance. It's not a very good one, though. The thing is, Clemson hasn't really played any teams in the regular season that are good because their conference stinks. So we don't really know. Until they play Ohio State, we had no idea really what they were. But they look like a dominant defensive team, even though they lost like 8 defensive starters from last year's championship team. Their offense is working. They have a great quarterback, great receiving core, great running back. I'm not sure how good the line is. Thing is, though, this LSU offense is, I said it on the show before, better than some NFL offenses. They seriously are. And every starter will be an NFL player. So, like, when I say they're better than an NFL offense, they really are better than, like, at least 5 or 6 of them. And they're probably the best college offense that you ever have seen or ever will see. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but so I just can't imagine Clemson slowing them down. They put up, 63 in the first playoff game? Clemson maybe will hold them to 35, 40, but then it's going to come down to their defense stopping Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson side of the ball.
I agree with that. I think Trevor Lawrence is actually more of the X factor this game because, like, you said we really didn't see them play any talent until they played Ohio State. Then they went down 16-0. Then he got hit. Then a switch flipped, and he turned it on.
Right.
And you've already seen in 2 years of Trevor Lawrence's ability to win big games because he's won every game he's played in college ever. And I think if he has a day and the Clemson defense can, like as you said, contain the best offense in college football, I think there's an outside chance that they can win this game. But I'm putting my money on LSU for sure.
Yeah, I just think there's no way they stop him. There's no way. Nope. And I mean, they can score 35, 40, but if he scores 50, what's it matter?
Exactly.
I'm amazed that every time LSU plays, the over is still, for the game, is still only like 69, 71. Like, the game, I think the over-under at the last game was set at 71, and LSU put up 63 alone. Like, yeah. they almost hit the game.
It was like
over.
78, but same idea.
I think I saw it at 76, 77, yeah. But
like
still.
It's I have, the book I'm looking at right now has this one at 69.
Reason it's so low is because Clemson is the best defense in the country. Or at least the best defense we know of. I still think the final score of this game is going to be 42-35. I agree with you. Yeah, no,
40, 49, 35. Like, so they're both going to blend it up.
All right, let's keep moving. Ryan, let's stay with you. The Predators are on to the next one. After firing head coach Peter Laviolette Monday morning, Nashville announced on Tuesday they have hired former Devils head coach John Hines as his replacement. Laviolette coached the Predators for 4 years before going 19-15-7 this season, putting the Predators in second to last place in their division. We've discussed John Hines and his credentials already on this show, but do you think this was a good move by the Nashville Predators?
I think it's a quick fix for the Nashville Predators. Laviolette's a Massachusetts guy, so we got to throw him some love. I think it's a quick fix to keep everything the same and bring a head coach in. I think there are times where coaching staffs aren't set in stone and they don't know who the next guy up is, like the Devils or when the Bruins fired Julian. They kind of knew that Cassidy was going to come up and be the next head coach. If you don't have a guy like that, I think it's better to hire someone like Hines in who has experience than doing a coach by committee kind of thing that you're seeing in Dallas right now. So I think Hines is a quick fix for the rest of the season to still have some structure and an actual head coach versus what Dallas is going through right now. I don't have the Predators signed Hines to a long-term contract.
I'm not sure how long it is, but
I don't think they should.
I hope not for their sake.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Hines is a great hire to end out the season and do damage control. I don't think they should have Hines long-term.
I go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this Predators team is in trouble. And I know they've still got a lot of great talent on that team. You look at their top six and you look at their defense, and Pekka Rinne should be a great goalie, but this team is going to cap hell. And they're going to be there very quickly. They've got a lot of centers and a lot of wingers they need to worry about. If you look down at their wings on the third and fourth line, they've got a lot of trouble. Rinne does not look good. Duchesne looks he's a good player, but he's not worth the money he's making. We know what their wingers bring and how much money they're making. It's gonna take a lot to fix this team.
I want to throw one thing out there because I talk Devils with an IT manager that's at my job, and he had a great point. We've never seen Hines do anything. He's been with the Devils for 5 years, and they went to the playoffs once because Taylor Hall put them on his back. So he was very confused as to why Hines got a job anywhere else until he found out that there is some college roommate mutual friend connection between Hines and David Poile, the Nashville GM, and that this relationship had existed so far in the past that Hines was a quick fix, like Ryan was saying. But this guy, he's a shit coach. He's not good.
He's Van Wagenen syndrome.
Right. Yeah. I mean, his point is so on par. Taylor Hall carried them to one playoffs, but he's been with the team for 5 years with a ton of young guys, a number 1 overall pick, and he hasn't been able to do anything with it.
Yeah, but I think the fear with them is if you look at Dallas right now, so Dallas fires their coach, the guy who is labeled as the interim head coach, came out and said to the media, like, be easy on me. I've never been a head coach before, like kind of joking, but also kind of serious. And they're clearly taking a coach by committee route, which I don't think is working for them. And the Stars have had a roller coaster of a last 2 years as far as the whole Ben Sagan drama. So I think even if that is a connection, I still think you're better to hire someone who can be a scapegoat if you need one. And if you're the owner, to be like, yeah, we just need him because he had head coaching experience, rather than gamble if you don't trust someone in your system right now.
All right, boys, we're not being very quick. Let's move on. Lawrence, while we're on hockey, highly anticipated Rangers prospect Igor Shesterkin made his debut Tuesday in New York against the Colorado Avalanche. The Rangers won the game 5-3 with Shesterkin making 29 saves on 32 shots after letting up 2 goals early. What did you think of the rookie's first NHL game, and what did his call-up say about the direction the Rangers are moving in?
The second question is so layered, we could have a whole podcast talking about that. The Rangers goalie situation right now is just question marks. But Shesterkin had a great debut. He went down 2-0 within the first 5 minutes of the game on the first 4 shots he faced, and he had the resilience to stay in it and beat one of the top 3 teams in the NHL right now because his offense got behind him and helped him out a little bit. The nerves were great. He made a couple great saves. I mean, how could you ask the kid in the first 5 minutes of his pro career to take McKinnon one-on-one? And
exactly. You hit it on the head.
The first goal is nothing. I mean, it's a wild deflection that hits millimeters. I mean, he played really well, and I know they're going to give him the start tonight against the Devils. When he plays his second game, they might just ride him out until they lose, and this is when we're going to get the uncertainty with the Rangers with the goalie scenario. Do they play him 9 games straight and then let him go wherever he wants so they don't burn a year of his entry-level contract? Are they doing this to get a look at Shesterkin so maybe they can trade Georgiev at the deadline? When do you get Hank any reps? Because if you're going to make a postseason run, this guy's got to play in goal. So the call-up to me was just utterly confusing because we have no idea what direction they're going in, and any of these goalies could be anywhere in the next month and a half.
All right, good point. Jake, Tua Tagovailoa has put to bed the questions. He is off to the 2020 draft. We've talked about his decision to play professionally and how his injury has affected his draft stock. What team will take Tua, and could we see him fall deep or even see a team trade up to take him?
He's going to be taken early. If Chase Young is the first one off the board, he's going to be the first QB. He's going to be in the top 3 picks. People want him. At the end of the day, you put a premium on the QB position, and we've seen time and time again over the past 5 or 6 years that having a rookie QB on a rookie contract is invaluable. You can do so much more when they're underpaid. I think the Russell Wilson years proved it, and we've seen great performances from other teams that have sort of had similar situations. And I think at the end of the day, it's worth picks if you're in a win now situation. So any team that wants to say we're winning now, he's the one you got to trade up for.
I think it's going to be Dolphins, like 3 or 4. I think they're at the 4. No, 3 pick.
I think
Giants
they're
are 4.
5, actually.
Are they that high?
Don't hold me to that.
5,
I think they're 5.
Okay.
I think they're 5 because the Chargers
5,
are 6 and the Panthers are 7, and I don't think there's any way he's getting past those 3 teams.
No, I don't think he's getting past the first one.
Yeah.
Who's number 1 this year? Bengals?
Cincy, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to take Joe Burrow.
So depending on if Burrow wins this game, and the combines, there's a lot. I mean, you think Burrow right now, but there's a lot that could happen because he was consensus number 1 3 months ago. So
I think there's no chance they don't take Burrow. Yeah,
I think I agree with you. Right. So
Chase Young's a better football player.
Anything can happen. Oh, definitely.
But he's not a quarterback,
Yeah.
We will see. David, the Brooklyn Nets do not look like the team we expected them to be. The Nets are in the middle of the pack right now as the number 8 seed in the East with a record of 16-20. Kyrie Irving has only played 11 games since signing his 4-year contract and has had a less than adequate relationship with management. And Kevin Durant is catching some heat recently for clapping back at fans criticizing the Nets on Twitter. This team has a lot of adversity to overcome. So, David, is it still realistic to think that this team has it together and they can win a championship in the next 5 years?
They've only got 3 years to shoot for it. So, I mean, five's way too big. But that's how long the Kyrie and Durant contracts last. So, I mean, he's basically becoming what is the Ioannis Cespedes of the NBA. He's got these phantom injuries. I mean, it's obviously not to the extent of, fighting a wild boar or falling off a horse or whatever the hell it is that's supposed to happen there. But, he's basically jerking off the organization. They don't know what's going on with him. And actually, it came out today, but he's supposed to play Friday. I'll believe it when I see it. But I who knows? Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't.
Right.
The team with him is capable of not beating anybody, but beating most teams in the East. And, everyone knew that this wasn't going to be a championship year without Durant anyway. But you wanted to see them make the playoffs, maybe win a playoff series, beat up on one of those bottom feeders in the East. But right now, hovering around the 8th seed, you're becoming one of the bottom feeders in the East yet again. So it'll be interesting to see. Definitely not the year to win a championship, though.
And since you, sorry, Jay, go ahead.
The reality is everything changes next year when KD comes back. If Kyrie can get his head on straight and we assume KD will be fine from this injury. He's not that old. Then the whole thing changes, I think, next year. And the reality is Kyrie's mood sort of changes day to day, so we don't really know where he's going to be at. But if he's on a team that could possibly win, his mental state's going to be a lot better. People are happy when they win.
Yeah,
it's true. And David, since you brought up Yoenis Cespedes, we're going to go ahead and order here. Lawrence, you can put the rumors to bed. The New York Post has revealed Yoenis Cespedes' ankle fracture during the 2019 season came from an encounter with a wild boar. The report states Cespedes was removing the boar from a trap on his ranch, and then the startled boar caused Cespedes to lose his footing and fractured his ankle. What do you make of all this, and where does what?
Did you hear what you just said?
I know, Lawrence. I had to write it out and everything. So let me finish the question. What do you make of all this, and where do you rank this among unusual injuries you've seen in sports?
Oh, my all-time favorite. With that last question, my all-time favorite unusual sports injury is Joel Zumaya, Tigers reliever, playing too much Guitar Hero before the playoffs. Much respect, Joel Zumaya. This Cespedes thing is a lost cause. I mean, anything that you get out of this guy is worth it because, every Met fan is just in that what the fuck is happening with this guy stage completely. Like, no one has any idea what this guy's up to. He's pulling up to spring training in three-wheel cars and then hitting dingers, and then all of a sudden he's pissed off and he's getting hurt all the time, and now he's made of glass apparently, and he's never going to play baseball again. And then he goes and tells Eduardo Perez that he's ready to hit 40 home runs and play 140 games this year. So like David said, I don't think anyone's got any clue what to expect out of this guy ever. I mean, just completely absurd. We haven't talked. I don't remember if we talked Cespedes on the other podcast, but the point that I want to make about him is that there is no way that he takes a salary reduction if he doesn't think he's completely screwed. If he's got no hope, because I think the Mets have something legal on him to void his contract, which is why they strong-armed him into taking $20 million less this year and still being able to play baseball, because he wouldn't have made any money elsewhere with all the stuff that's gone on. So I think he's just predictably unpredictable. That's what I'm going with.
I think the thing the Mets have is the fact that he got re-injured, fighting a wild boar.
A boar.
It shows grit.
It's a tractor. It's a horse. I mean, does everyone react this way if he's doing it playing golfing? Yeah, but all of these ridiculous things are just happening on a ranch. So maybe he should just go be a farmer, and he can just cover on his own without the scrutiny of the New York Post or the Trash Daily News.
One of the best parts about the story is that apparently MLB Suits had to go down and investigate the ranch and whether or not it was true that a boar could possibly be trapped on the ranch, and whether or not it's true that releasing the boar from a trap would possibly injure someone. And the fact that imagine. No, imagine these lawyers doing this, having to go down
in their suits and ties.
You got to think that's one of those moments where you're like, I thought working for the MLB was going to be awesome, and here I am in the middle of nowhere hunting for wild boar trap at Yoenis Cespedes' ranch.
Stepping in horse shit. Yeah, right? He's got $1,000 shoes on. He's got manure all over them by the end of the day.
All right. Too much board talk. All right, last story. Ryan, the XFL has recently announced some rule changes for its inaugural season in an effort to speed the game up. These include, but are not limited to, during kickoffs, only the kicker and returner can move until the ball is caught or 3 seconds after it hits the ground. Touchbacks are moved up to the 35-yard line. Players can't leave the line of scrimmage on punts until after the kick. There are 3 options after scoring a touchdown: a 1-point play from the 2-yard line, a 2-point play from the 3-yard line, or a 3-point play from the 10-yard line, and there is no option to kick an extra point. 2 forward passes behind the line of scrimmage per play, and a shootout-style overtime where each team will get 5 single-play possessions from the 5-yard line. If the game is still tied at that point, the rotating possessions will continue until there is a winner. Ryan, are these rule changes exciting for the XFL, or are they just looking for trouble?
Little of both. They're super exciting because they're just crazy enough where it's still football and we're all going to watch the first game, we're going to be like, wow, this might be kind of cool. And then we realize it's not the NFL, and it's kind of like watching the JV football team play. And then after that, the viewings are going to drop off, and people are going to realize that it's not the NFL. And then in 5 weeks, the league's going to get disbanded, and we're going to be talking about it again. So, like, will it be cool to see someone go for 3 after a touchdown? Sure. Am I going to watch anything past the first week? Definitely not. Is it a grab just to get people to talk about it like we're doing, so they've suckered us into their plan? Absolutely. It's not the NFL. Nothing's ever going to be the NFL. They're doing a good job of getting people to talk about them and try to be relevant in the middle of the playoffs, and that's all they can do right now.
It's kind of working. We're talking about it.
Their marketing strategy, excellent. The product they put on the field and whenever it starts,
not excellent.
Again, I will watch the first game. I will not watch a single game after that. And that's why the league's not going to work. It's why every other not football team that doesn't rule Sundays or like the college football and rule Saturdays, nothing's going to ever work because that's it.
I think the best part about the rules that I was excited about is that even when if it gets disbanded, something will, the NFL will get to take something from this. And I think the rules I'm most excited about are the after a touchdown, the 1, 2, and 3 points, because at the end of the day, up until the Falcons get 3 crazy offside kicks, an onside kick has just not been. Onside kick is a terrible comeback mechanic these days. They're not successful. They're hard to do. And at the end of the day, you want something like that in the game where there is this chance to get the ball back because it creates an exciting last 3 minutes instead of a team just being totally out of it at the end. And so having a 3-point extra point, that's exciting. And it's a football play. That's what we want. We want more football plays. And even if it's a crazy low chance of happening, it gives that excitement that someone could come back. And that's what you want.
Last thing before we cut the segment, yes or no from everybody. Will the XFL fold before Week 10? Ryan?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Lawrence?
No.
David?
No. Wait, their own Week 10 or the NFL's Week 10?
Their own Week 10.
No.
Oh, okay. There we go. We're split right down the middle. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Quickly Talking. Oh, I think they're done for. I think this is the AFF. I think this is AAF light. I think is what we're dealing with right now. But that was Quickly Talking Sports. Good job, everybody.
That wasn't that quick, but all right.
No, not at all, actually.
Not really at all.
That was one of our slower Quickly Talking Sports.
There's a lot going on.
But that's okay.
On jam-packed show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's been, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're in the height of, like, you have Wild Card Weekend and Black Monday, so all the head coaching stuff. So, like, there's a lot going on.
Luke's getting anxiety. He wants to move on with the show. Come on.
You can see Luke slowly starting to twitch in the corner, like, oh, God.
I'll take the pressure off myself. I want Jake to ask the next question. Jake, can you ask Lawrence what time it is?
Lawrence, what time is it?
Mailbag!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first mailbag of the decade, and I think we got a good one ahead of us, boys. I'm excited. All right, we touched on this first one a little bit before, but Nick Diekman wants to know, how much do we think the Jets organization and the Jets fans regret passing on Mike McCarthy and what could have been?
Oh, my God. That's so ironic.
A lot.
So much. So much.
I'm gonna break this question into 2, though. How much does the Jets organization regret? Absolutely nothing. The Jets fans, everything.
I like that answer. Well, you never know. You never know with all the drama and stir that Adam Gase caused and the 1-7 start. You don't know how much that pissed Chris Johnson off. You don't. And the whole front office is screwy because you hired Gase and you fired McCagnon and then you hired Douglas and everything's out of order. The org chart is historically been absolutely screwed. So I don't know if they regret it, Luke, unfortunately, because I think if they do regret it, they might have admitted they regretted it already by shit canning.
I think they'll be fine. I think they're going to live in their own little cloud of bliss and just forget that everyone else is. Who just got fired from Washington? I'm blanking on the name. Thank you, Bruce. To quote Bruce Allen, the culture is pretty damn good. So that's what the Jets have to look forward to. All right, Tom Kamal wants us to rank these in order of importance for starting an NFL team. A top 5 quarterback, a top 5 coach, and a top 5 GM who can build around the quarterback.
Well, he's admitting that the GM is building around the quarterback and that quarterback's more important. However, the GM finds a quarterback. This is kind of like chicken or the egg, Tom.
Yeah, I was hoping he would go like, defensive backs, offensive linemen, like that kind of route. Like even throwing the kicker,
See, I think he pretty much named the three most important people in the football organization. If we're going to be completely honest with you, right?
the owner.
You want. Oh yeah, I guess that. But he said because there can be owners that aren't involved in the team, in the team's business aspects. So
True.
I think from a football employment perspective, it's general manager, coach, quarterback are the three most important by and large.
To give Tom credit, he did say if you want to spice it up a little bit, add owners who don't suck. To which I said, "Hey Jim Dolan, how you doing?"
Well, I think that's why it's interesting to look at an organization like the Cowboys, where Jerry Jones thinks he's this brilliant football mind that he clearly isn't, and just needs to stop getting involved in football operations. And on the flip side of that, if you look at the Patriots, and the one time that Robert Kraft has really gotten involved in football operations was when he traded Jimmy G and not Tom Brady. And that is something that we'll be looking at, especially if Tom Brady leaves this offseason and Jimmy G goes on to have a 15-year marvelous career in the NFL, which he's on pace to do right now. I think it's an interesting dynamic that you look at is where owners play a role in football operations.
If he's talking about starting a new franchise, I think that it's hands down the GM, because he needs to then build that franchise, build the culture, hire the coach, pick the quarterback. Agreed. All these things need to go through him first. So, I mean, if you're saying, like, if I'm taking over a new franchise, who do I want? That'd probably be the head coach.
General manager first.
I think.
Yeah, well, so the Jets did coach was what I was going to say. Or you can be the Jets and then hire Adam Gase and then get rid of everyone else.
I think it's really easy, I think, to go with coach or GM. But I think, like, find me a top 5 quarterback who doesn't dominate the regular season and get you to the playoffs. Yep. I don't think a top 5 QB will win you the Super Bowl necessarily, but I think they'll get you to the playoffs. I think having that an amazing head coach, a top 5 head coach, I forget what the wording is, could from the playoffs to the Super Bowl. That's going to get you far. And it's hard to say in this example, I think, where the GM fits in my mind. It's like you guys are saying, and the new team, invaluable, but it's a chicken or the egg scenario. Sort of what else is around?
What comes first?
I think Jake absolutely hit it on the head, and he said exactly what I was going to say. Because coaches and GMs are incredibly important. They've got much more on their plate than a quarterback does. But Pete Carroll can call a throw on the 1-yard line. A GM can flop with a contract. How often does Drew Brees have a bad season? So I don't know. I think the quarterback might be my number one, and I think GM and coach after that. But I don't really think there's a bad order.
But on the flip side of that, a bad contract can ruin a real bad contract can ruin your franchise for a long time. Like
but it's a top 5 GM. That's what we're talking about.
So can your quarterback that you expect to play for the next 8 years retiring 2 weeks before the season starts. that could also really ruin your
Dave, do you know someone who did that?
Yeah, but you can't tell me that top 5 GMs don't make bad contracts either. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
I'm just saying it can come from both directions, because I mean,
I agree.
Your GM could build a team specifically for one quarterback's skill set, and then be stuck with a bunch of useless contracts when this quarterback decides to quit.
I think we should probably move away just so Dave doesn't have to lament.
Have a stroke.
Well, speaking of the Acasella family, Dan Acasella wants to know, is it smart for Brady to come back when his stats have clearly fallen off compared to his prime?
Yes. Why would he not go? If he can still play, he's still better than a ton of other quarterbacks in the league. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of quarterback-needy teams who will take the risk on an old guy for 1 or 2 years. He's unique. You rent him. You pay him. He can still do great things if you think he could.
Yeah, no, I don't think 42/43-year-old Tom Brady will fall off. He can fall off, but if Carson Palmer doesn't fall off, or Drew Brees hasn't fallen off, or Peyton Manning didn't fall off, I don't think Brady's going to fall off.
Honestly, though, sorry to cut you off, Luke.
Go ahead.
My biggest thing about it is when you go down the line of great players, I feel like a lot of them, you remember like those last couple of years where they played for a different team. Like, I think what would be so special about Brady coming back and ending it in New England, no matter how it ends, and it'll realistically, his last year, if he signs a 2-year deal, will he go out on top? Probably not. Let's play statistics, and so it'll probably be a farewell tour, right? But to go wire to wire with one team is so rare. To go wire to wire with in the manner they have would be so rare. So for 30 years down the line, looking back, to have the New England from start to finish, I just think is storybook endings. I would rather that, just because you always, like there's always that last couple of years of every great player who wanted to hang on and couldn't walk away and ended up having to walk away from their team, and I would just hate to have Brady in that grouping. And they all did it. Every great played a couple of years with some random team, right? I mean, like it's hard to find someone that didn't, and so that's
why there's nothing wrong with collecting a paycheck.
No, and you can't. And that's what, at the end of the day, if Tom Brady is not wearing a New England Patriots jersey next year, I will still be a Tom Brady supporter, and I will still root for him every Sunday unless he's playing the New England Patriots, because there is absolutely no way that I could ever say something bad about that man. I will root for him every single week except for the week he plays the Patriots. I will.
It's the same way when Peyton was in the
I could say a couple
It doesn't matter. It does not matter where he goes. It pains me to say it. He could go to the Giants or the Jets, and I would still root for him every week because of what he did for this franchise.
Better question is, would you buy a Tom Brady jersey of the other team? Because I actually have a Peyton Manning Denver Broncos jersey in my closet.
I mean, no, just because I have my Patriots Brady jersey, and I wouldn't. But
I would consider it. I want one.
But I would root for Tom every single Sunday that isn't playing the Patriots.
All right, Kyle Calhoun wants to know, who do we think will be the best fit for the Giants' next offensive coordinator? Garrett, Kitchens, or somebody else not named?
I think there are plenty of options out there. It seems like those two are going to be the two top candidates, in which case I would say Garrett. But it's sad. I don't think either of them really jump out at you yet. I think it's good that they're going to get someone with experience, though, for Judge. But I don't know. I don't know.
Garrett's a lot better. Garrett's a lot better than Kitchens. I like the fact that those are the top two is saying a lot.
Right.
If you're Judge, though, I see the value in having someone with experience, though. But at the same time, if Kitchens or Garrett come in and they're the offensive coordinator, is Joe Judge really the head coach, or is Jason Garrett the head coach and Joe Judge gets in trouble for everything? Jason Garrett refused to get fired. He literally protested his firing and asked if he could still call plays.
He did do
Clearly,
that.
The guy has trouble with the concept of reality. I just can't see him not going in there and trying to be the head coach. You cannot tell me that if you brought him in and said you're the offensive coordinator, he wouldn't think he's the head coach. He legitimately still thought he was a coach for the organization after they told him he wasn't. And then you're going to bring him into your organization and say, hey, champ, be number 2? And he's going to be okay with that? No way.
It's up to Joe Judge to put him in his place, chain of command. That's the whole idea.
Oh, 100%. But, from the outside looking in, that's how I see how it would go.
All right.
I think it's going to be Kitchens, but
I've heard
let's move on.
All right, so this last question we have is going to provoke some thought, so get your thinking caps on. Pat Pitts wants to know, what 3 athletes from any time period would we want to sit down and have a discussion with about the current state of their sport?
Jeez.
So, yeah, I know. I thought about that. I had all of today to think about this since I had access to the questions. And the only one that jumped out at me that I would really love to sit down, I would love to talk to like Johnny Unitas about the current state of football, just because he was like the first Drew Brees-esque long ball touchdown city.
First passer.
Yeah, no, he was the first
passer.
Yeah, exactly. He's very dead, so I won't have that.
Right.
Have that opportunity. I also think I'd like to talk to like Sean Avery about the current state of hockey.
He'll tell you. He's done like 5 Chicklets interviews. He's very upfront about it. Yeah, he's done on Chicklets at least 2, if not 3 times.
I got to check this out.
I think Bobby Orr's the hockey guy I want to talk to. Just because hockey's so different now, I'd like to see the perspective.
That's where I was going with it. It was hockey, and just the kid in me just wants to talk to Gretzky. But I think you're right. I think by talking to Orr, you'll get a lot more perspective.
He played when they didn't
the wild card one. I would love, for no other reason than it's a personal hobby of mine, but if I could have dinner with Jack Nicklaus, that'd be pretty cool. I don't know how much golf has changed other than the technology and the equipment. And the rules are the rules. But, shit, if I'm just talking about an old athlete that I want to sit down and talk about the sport with, Jack Nicklaus is a legend.
See, so the reason
go ahead.
No, you can finish if you had another one.
I mean, no, Ed Reed's my favorite athlete of all time, and football is definitely the last sport I want to cover because of how much it's changed. So, I want to talk to Ed Reed.
I think Ed Reed was going to be mine. Ed Reed was going to be mine. He's a ball hawk through and through, and I feel like a lot of free safeties don't exactly play that game anymore. We're talking about a handful that are doing that these days, and not a lot of them get that much trust. And so he, I think, just has a way different eye on the way defenses play nowadays that I think would just be interesting to pick his brain about.
So the reason, David, I was kind of hesitant about the Bobby Orr is because he's done interviews too, and so has Gretzky have, and I feel like everyone who's going to talk about hockey is going to say the exact same thing of, it used to be a game full of bullies back in the 70s, and then slowly you had, the Yager, Lemieux, Gretzky kind of era that has changed it now to a speed game, and now it's completely a speed skill game, and it's going to be one of two opinions. Like, Orr has come out and said it. He's done interviews and said the game's great now, or it's speed and skill, and it highlights everything that's great about it. I would love to sit down with an old time, like a Babe Ruth or a Joe DiMaggio, a Mickey Mantle, someone in that old era of baseball, because we talked about the sign stealing stuff, and just, I mean, like, baseball's gotten borderline ridiculous at this point with, like, when you think about the contracts and the length of the game and the home runs, and when you think about, like, where baseball used to be, I think that would be an interesting perspective that we can't have now, because baseball has gone through the steroid era and then this, and so I think it would be cool to bring one of them back and say, look at over the last 30 years, something that's gone from America's pastime to the steroid era to no one can trust anyone to now sign stealing and 4-hour games, and now they're talking about wearing devices and putting lights on mounds and creating systems where electronically communicate pitches. And so I just think that baseball inherently is such a simple game, but has changed so recently and it's so old that would be an interesting perspective to have. Versus I feel like we know what people are going to say about football, where people are going to say football is not hard hitting enough, and people are going to say the hockey's great because it's fast and it's all skill and it highlights the speed of the game. But what baseball has gone through in the last 30 years and how old it is, that's my pick.
I was going to say same
David,
idea.
Yeah, David, you go.
Okay, cool. I was going to say actually Jackie Robinson specifically though, but for all the ideas that you highlighted on Ryan, also just so that he could look at, we could talk about the way the game has changed from a social justice standpoint as well, and just the way that society's kind of pushing that and how that's reflected in a sport. I think it would just be cool to have both conversations with the guy that really started it all.
I mean, we haven't really
been my baseball guy.
We haven't really talked about it, and I'm not sure if I know exactly who it would be, but one of the old NBA guys, because we've seen a massive shift in NBA strategy where I think analytics has massively changed the game, and I think understanding where you're shooting from has massively changed how teams play and how teams pick players and every sort of the whole thing about the sport, the whole strategy behind it. And so any of the players from either before the 3-point line or before we realized the inefficiency that was the 3-point line, I think would be interesting, because we even see that debate now of KD ranting on Twitter about the best shot is not a 3-point, it's an open shot. And it's a basic concept, but how would these guys sort of respond to and analyze like what the game is like today?
I know this isn't really a sport, but I know Pat will really appreciate this answer. I would love to talk to Eddie Guerrero about the current state of professional wrestling. I know, Ryan, you're rolling your eyes.
No, that was a much better answer than I thought you were going to give.
No, yeah, because
I knew it was wrestling, but Eddie Guerrero was a better, because he was one of the top picks you could have made.
Exactly.
I was expecting something more ridiculous than Eddie.
He got taken away from us really early, and he was one of the first guys to really embrace this whole light heavyweight style. You're not 7 feet tall, you're not 275 pounds. He was one of the first guys to do it, and now wrestling is incredibly technical. It's incredibly athletic, more than ever. So I think he would be a great person to talk to.
One of the old-time boxers might be cool, too. I don't really know off the top of my head any names besides Ali. But, I feel like
Foreman.
If we looked into it, Foreman. If we looked into it, we could make a nice boxer list as well.
I think we could probably come up with a good boxer.
Can we bring Kimbo Slice back? Talk about the current
I would love to talk to Kimbo Slice about literally anything.
Right?
Literally anything. Kimbo Slice can just talk my ear off all day. All right. And it wouldn't be our first show back without the judges' trivia question of the week. Boys, this one's a little more simple than usual, but I think this one's still going to be a little tough.
Those were getting hard.
Yeah.
These have been hard, and maybe judges letting up. He's letting up on us. Maybe, who knows? We'll have to see.
Try to keep it fair.
The category is football. Very straightforward question for you boys here. No hints. Simple question. Who succeeded Troy Aikman as the Dallas Cowboys quarterback in 2001?
Yeah,
I have a guess.
Question.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
John Kitna.
Nope.
Wow, great guess.
Jake Delhomme.
Nope. I can't even give you a hint if I wanted to.
No, you give it away.
Very straightforward question.
Dallas quarterback in 01.
And he replaced Aikman?
Yes.
Who was the coach at that point?
I'm going to have to Google that.
Do you know if there was anyone between him and Romo?
That's the question.
Is it Romo?
Yeah, it's not Romo.
No, I'm saying, do you know if there was anyone between this person and Romo?
Oh, I'll check.
I know it definitely wasn't Romo.
Hold on,
okay.
let me Google one thing at a time. We want coaching? All right. Let me, let's see. This didn't take me where I wanted it to.
I have no idea.
I gave my guess, so I'm looking it up.
All right, hold on. 2001 Dallas Cowboys. There we go.
I wasn't a conscious enough football fan at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, how old were you, David?
Yeah.
In 01, I was
The head
5.
coach was Dave Campo.
I have no idea. Wow.
That's not at all helpful. I have no idea. I couldn't even give a good guess.
David, take your guess.
I said Jake Delhomme. That was my initial one.
Well, after the hint, nothing changed?
Oh, after the hint? Well, no, I don't know who the head coach was. But
I don't think anyone will get it. Jake, do you have a guess?
I have no idea. I can't think of any.
I say stumped.
Can you tell me the university he went to and see if I can get it then?
Yeah, sure. He went to Georgia.
Nah, I don't got it.
Nope.
Lars, you want to give it to him?
Quincy Carter.
I never heard of that guy.
Football's finest, as Judge says.
No shot. Well done, Judge.
Thanks, Judge.
Apparently, yeah.
Makes
Did
me
he play?
feel like
did he
shit
play?
for the last 2 months, this Judge guy.
So, yeah, I guess he played a lot of arena football. Is that? Must have
After
played
the fact, I would hope.
He was a
started
Jet.
multiple years for the Cowboys. So,
He did.
I don't know.
Had me
I got
stumped.
nothing. Thanks,
He
Judge.
bounced around indoor football leagues, which I didn't know you could do.
They had that many of them? I guess they did.
They had multiple.
More than one. All
Maybe
right.
he was around so long to wait for the new one to start.
All right. Well, another point for the Judge. Congratulations. Jake, thank you so much for coming on, man. We loved having you.
Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome. It's fun to see how the sausage is made.
Another New Englander is always welcome.
Oh, it's made already. Thanks for coming on, Beals. Great week to have you.
Pleasure. Thanks,
Great
boys.
week to have you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and make sure you don't miss our next episode. For all of us here at Four Guys Talking Sports, my name is Luke Lograno.
I'm Ryan Hicks.
I'm David Axel.
And I'm Lawrence Lograno.
And I'm Jake Bulian.
There he is. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Take care. Spay and neuter your pets.
Spay and neuter your pets.